Hey everybody, hope you all are doing well. I'm going to tell a quick story real quick, and I'm going to pack about 200 years worth of history into just a few minutes, so bear with me, I'll make it fast. 400 years ago right now, our forefathers, a little group of people called the Pilgrims, left Europe to flee religious oppression. They did not come to America for the purpose of colonization or money or power or anything like that. They came here for religious freedom, to worship God however they wanted, however they saw fit. And the state church is what was oppressing them in England. It was not just the government, it wasn't just power-hungry politicians, it was the established church. And they said, we want to go to a place where there is no established church, where there is no religion telling you, you have to worship one way, you have to worship this God, you have to, whatever. They wanted to come to a place, they wanted to go to an area where you could worship God however you wanted. And probably the biggest reason we have religious freedom in this country, or any place has religious freedom, is because of the step of faith that the Pilgrims took 400 years ago right now. Fast forward about 180 years to 1801, okay? Revolutionary War is over. It's been over for about 20 years. And religious oppression has crept its way into America. The established church at that point was the Congregational Church, and you had to worship the way the state church said. If you were any other denomination, whether it's Baptist, Lutheran, Catholic in some cases, you had to find a place that was sort of tucked away on the outskirts of town. And that's the way it was. If you were not a part of the Congregational Church, if you did not worship where they said to worship, how they said to worship, who they said to worship, you were not welcome, and you were looked down upon. And in many cases, you were persecuted for what you believed. And even in some cases, if you were a Congregationalist, but you believed that there should be no state church, you were looked down upon. So there was another little group of people called the Danbury Baptist Association, and that is where I am right now. I'm at the site of the First Baptist Church of Danbury. The marker says 1786. The foundation of the church is still here. I would have to guess it's about 600 square feet, maybe a little more. If it's more than that, it's not much more than that. And so this is just an example of, if you wanted to meet under a different brand or a denomination, you had to meet in a little place on the outskirts of town. And I mean, I'm in Danbury, but I'm way on the edge. This is Route 39 right here. There's a 7-Eleven and a gas station. That's about all going on right here. The Congregational Church still meets right in the center of Danbury. So you can see, even to this day, the contrast between the established church and anybody else. So the Danbury Baptist Association was a group of churches, not just in Danbury, but in this area, into other parts of Connecticut, and even some churches in New York State, right on the state line. They got together and they said, well, we're not having this anymore. And I'm sure many of you have heard recently, the past few years, about the letter that they sent to Thomas Jefferson. And in a nutshell, saying, look, what happened to our religious freedom that we fought for, and that we believe in, and that you all say you believe in? What happened to it? And so Thomas Jefferson read it and said, you know what, you're right. And he sent a letter back to them telling them that they were right, and that he agreed with them, and that he was going to do whatever he could to change that. And that's where you get the phrase separation of church and state. You will not find that phrase in the Constitution. The phrase separation of church and state comes from the letter that Thomas Jefferson sent back to the Danbury Baptist Association. And something needs to be cleared up. That phrase does not mean that the church has no influence on the government. It means quite the opposite, actually. It means that the government should have no influence whatsoever on what the church says or does or believes. The church can believe however they want. Any religion can believe however they want. Obviously, leaving out, if your religion believes you're supposed to hurt people, But if you're just meeting on a Sunday or whenever to worship your God, and you do it peaceably, and you don't harm anybody or anything, there should be nothing telling you that you can't do that. And that's where we get the phrase separation of church and state. You've been hearing a lot about that letter lately, but you haven't been hearing a lot about this site. I would think that if the letter is getting a lot of notoriety, that the site where it was written would also get a lot of notoriety. Sorry for the shaky camera. I would think that this place would be packed quite a bit. I can't find a whole lot of pictures on the internet. I can't find any videos. I mean, maybe if you look it up at home, you find some. I can't find any. Maybe I didn't look hard enough. I don't know. But this site doesn't get a lot of attention. And as much faith as the Pilgrims had, and I'm not downplaying that, but as much faith as they had to leave their homeland and flee religious oppression, the men here, the churches here, they also had quite a lot of faith to overthrow religious oppression. They had no place to go because they were already in America. So they had to say, you know what has been established here is not good. It needs to be overthrown. It needs to be done away with. And so these people had quite a bit of faith. If you're ever in this area, I would challenge you to come to this spot, because no matter what denomination you are, whatever religious belief, if you're an atheist, your religion to believe however you believe comes from this spot right here, right behind me. This little foundation where the First Baptist Church of Danbury met. This is where it comes from. And it was only 220 years ago, or 219 technically, that the letter was written. So I wanted to bring this to light. Most of the people who watch this video probably have never heard of this site. I wanted to bring this to your attention. If you would like this and share it, I've got like 100 followers. I don't need a lot of notoriety, but I do want this spot to get as much notoriety as possible. If you could share it to someone who you know would be interested in. And if you're in this area, if you'd reach out to me and say, I want to see that spot, I'd be glad to take you here. There's so much history involved in this, and just something for you to think about and ponder, especially in the days going forward. Many believe that our religious freedom is going to be taken away. That's a different subject, different conversation. But I wanted to bring this to your attention. So if you would like and share and do whatever you want to do, appreciate your time. God bless.